Hello, all. I'm Josh McDonald, and this week we are talking about does God still speak to us? How does He speak, and what are the misconceptions or the misunderstandings that can be hindrances or prevent us from hearing Him correctly? So the question of does God still speak to human beings has a very simple answer, and that's yes. Um, God hasn't changed. Our view of God may have changed, but God never changes. And He spoke then, and He still speaks now. Um, it could also be answered with another question for us: do we stop long enough, and do we still desire to hear God? Because I do believe that He's always speaking. We're just never, we don't slow down properly and invest enough time in our relationship with Him to hear Him correctly. Um, On page 12 of his book, Hearing God, Developing a Conversational Relationship with God, Dallas Willard explains that we were created by God for intimate friendship with himself, both now and forever. So friends talk. Um, Friends have intimate conversations. True friends do. And conversation's always a two-way dialogue. It's never one-sided. So he does still speak. He will speak through prayer. He speaks to us through the situations that come up in life, but most often he speaks to us through his word and through the word of others or through others. Um, there's several ideas that keep us from hearing God properly. One of the main hindrance is the view of our relationship with God. If he if he isn't viewed as an approachable, lovable friend, then he won't be conversed with as one. Uh, Willard states on page 21 that people are meant to live in an ongoing conversation with God, speaking and being spoken to. Um, our motives towards hearing from God and our understanding of how He speaks greatly impacts His speaking. Some of the misconceptions listed by Willard uh, on chapter 1 and chapter 2 begin with our motive. Um, on page 33, he warns of those who seek to hear him out of a sense of safety. It's a device for safety, for comfort, and a sense of being righteous. Uh, this hit me as this appears to be a motive with a control factor. Uh, One isn't seeking God's face, but we want His hand, we want His direction, or we want the gifting or the blessings that come along with that. Um, as a if we see him as a master or a heavenly boss, God doesn't just dole out responsibilities, waiting to curse us or bless us depending on our performance. He is a loving father and a friend, and in that. He desires relationship. That's what we're created for. We wasn't created for performance. When we obey, it should be from devotion, not from duty. Um, Next, believing that every life issue is described and delegated a response in the Bible. This is dangerous thinking. A lot of issues of life are in the Bible, they are found in there or something similar, but there's some things it's just life. And if you are responding and living life in a way that God has described and He desires, we are within His will. And that doesn't, Willard says that um, that leaves a lot of initiative on our part. That's a very freeing way of seeing things. Um, that God is just not waiting up there to delegate and dictate every single step of our lives. He wants us to have a good life, and He wants us to have a life that honors Him, but He still wants us to have a life. A message a minute is another very unhealthy way of trying to hear God, and it's a hindrance because God usually doesn't speak that way. And then the last one was an unhealthy misunderstanding and a preventative is when you are looking to hear God speak in His Word and use what I call the point and shoot method. That's when you just open the Bible and point to something and feel like God's going to speak to you in that passage. It may not be a word for you or anybody else as well. Many times in my own personal experience, I've thought I've heard from God. Most every time has always directly lined up with His Word, but it's usually went against either my desires or my ego. Uh, when I've consulted God in a simple ploy to be right in a situation, most often I've been shown where I was wrong, or I've just gotten a wall of silence. That goes back to that motive of control. Um, God can't be approached like that. If He does, usually you don't get what you're looking for. Approaching God in a with humble expectancy greatly impacts His speaking. He will speak when speaking is needed, and He will give direction when direction is needed. The most common way I have received peace and comfort from God is when I have been raw and unhinged in my prayers and displayed my true heart. God knows life is tough, and God knows when we struggle, and God knows when we're on the mountaintop, and He's there with us in it all. And He already knows what's in our heart. He just wants to hear us talk about it. I believe uh, that's the true design. A friendship has its ups and downs, but it's centered on love, and love is what preserves it. I hope uh, this answers the questions, and everybody is blessed, and I can't wait to hear your responses. God bless.